What do you think about all these new, like, sexy forms of stem cells people are talking about? Like, I heard Dr. John Lawrence down in Florida. He was talking about X cells. Dr. Adil Khan, who I've had on my podcast, he talks about these Muse cells, which he says have low issues as far as like their, the rejection of the immune response or the histocompatibility of them. Like, why is it that all these different forms of stem cells pop up that people seem to like latch onto and go with as the next new thing?
Yeah, I'm not too familiar with Muse cells, but I'm sure everyone is trying to find an edge to see what's the most effective. What I can say is there's definitely the tendency of decline when you use a person's own cells. So
when you use a person's own cells.
Yeah, even if you use...
Like, you take their cells out and you store them, they'll decline.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's been living with you throughout your lifetime.
Right.
Even with what people call V cells, right? That's another popular form.
Yeah, V cells.
People start to know, even that will decline with age. So as a person gets older, that treatment becomes less and less effective.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
How do you know, because a lot of people get nervous about this, like whether if you go to a practitioner, whatever they're using, even if it's umbilical, are pure, like that they don't have, crap in them or toxins or anything like that? Is there some kind of purification process?
That comes to the issue of what I think makes a successful stem cell treatment. There are two aspects. One is the quality of the cells. Two is how you're putting it in the body. So both are very important. So when it comes to cell source, yes, first of all, you want the healthier, younger, more vibrant cells. Two, you want it to be extracted in the right way. And of course, different tissue banks will have different processes. Some are superior to others. Some will provide more viability after the cells are frozen and then thawed. And some will preserve more growth factors and different signals in the solution that the cells are suspended in. And of course, the screening process is important. The mother's health is important. She's eating all kinds of junk and bad oils. That's going to affect the quality of the cord. So each cord is different. Some are big and fat. Some are long and skinny.
Yeah.
I mean, they're all different. But finding somebody that's healthy, that's important, and young. We take donations from mothers who are younger than 30, and we also screen their health. And of course, we screen for family history, travel history, toxic exposure, work history, sexual history. So everything that could affect the cord, we screen for. So not every company will have the same stringent criteria, right? Some may compromise because they want a cord. But for the company, the lab I work with, there's no compromise.
Okay.
And
so you don't get the stem cells yourself, you get them from a lab, and that lab specializes in getting the right kind of stem cells and purifying them.
Exactly. So from a FDA registered laboratory that adhere to the standard from the American Association of Tissue Banks, because the obtaining of tissue
they're regulated by the FDA.
The FDA wants to regulate it because FDA, their purview is drug regulation. Mm-hmm. But when you do tissue transplant, that's actually governed by American Association of Tissue Banks. So, but the FDA really, really wants very badly to regulate this industry as drugs. They want to categorize it as drugs.
Categorize stem cells as drugs.
Yes. And I see a recent wave of control and wanting to put this category of therapy as giving drugs. Very obvious example is when I just recently read a warning letter to one of the tissue banks. One of the things that they were objecting to the scientist was that he mentioned in the podcast that he was getting cells from the Wharton's jelly and he was giving it to people to help with cartilage repair in the joint. So the FDA's letter said the umbilical cord is a conduit. The entire function of the cord serves as a conduit for the blood, right? For the artery and vein. So when you transplant it into another person, unless it's performing the function of a conduit, then it's a drug. So go figure as far as the rationale. But what they think of a tissue transplant is that the cells has to be performing the exact same function from before transplantation to after transplantation. So that means effectively, if you take cells out of the umbilical cord, because we're no longer putting it back into an organ to make it a conduit, right? To help being a conduit, then that makes everything a drug. So the question is, how do they know what the cells are there for? How do they know what the function is? They say it's a conduit, but we know the birth tissue has profound effects on the fetus. When the fetus is forming, the placental tissue and the cord is much bigger than the fetus. Because if it's just a conduit, you would think it will grow proportionally as the fetus grow, right? So the fetus will grow and the placenta grow. No, the placenta is big and the fetus is tiny. So there's a lot of instructions that's going into the fetus. We don't know exactly how it's working. So my question is, how are they, who gave them the authority to decide what these cells do? Because our science hasn't figured out yet.
Why would that even be a problem for it to be classified as a drug? Because you're a doctor and you can prescribe drugs, right?
Oh, we can't. But when they classify something as a drug, that means it has to go through the drug study. So that's where the kicker is.
So then you got like 10 years of research required.
You have to apply for investigation of a new drug application. You have to go through animal studies, then phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, and it's very costly. In general, just so you know, on average to take any molecule, any discovery from discovery to market, that process costs about $2.1 billion. And nobody has that kind of money unless you're a big drug company. Just so you're aware. And I've heard already of tissue banks going bankrupt, trying to do these studies the FDA is requiring. So that